Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears.
And have some fun.
And talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey peeps, this is Justin here with The Connected Life, and I have a really special treat for you today. Abby is not here, but someone else is, a special guest. And I recently referred to him as Testosterone Todd Pierce.
A name of endearment.
Have you been called that before?
No, never.
No, not. But you are really manly. That's a thing.
Thank you. I'm going to have to get my voice deeper.
Oh, hi, it's Todd here. Anyways, well, Todd, manly man Todd here. He's on here for a really specific reason. Besides the fact I really respect you, Todd. I think you're a really amazing guy. Todd has participated, to back up, I met Todd when he came into my office to meet with me, basically. Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to get into,
go there.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that story at some point. We're not going to get into that now, but I watched a journey for you that I thought was pretty profound that you went on personally in your life. And Todd has a huge history with mentoring men. Todd used to be a professional athlete within the rodeo or the bull riding circuit. Is that right?
I was actually a bareback rider in the pro rodeo.
Yeah.
So.
And then you went on to mentor in the pro bull riding tour.
Yep.
You'd go along and mentor them and talk to men and stuff like.
Yeah, I went to all the main events for the PBR, which was a 17-year.
17 years?
Yeah, journey. Yeah.
I think as a side note, you look unbelievably young. You're like pretty old.
Yeah, I am. I'm 48. Well, I've been 30 for 18 years.
Yeah, you have. Well, one of the big things with Todd, beyond the mentoring, is that he does something really awesome where he breaks horses. And Abby and I recently, after a hangout, because Todd and I have become friends in our journey, and after one of our hangouts, I was sharing with Abby a little bit about our conversation. And she was like, it's so profound what he does in so many people's lives, because she's heard of so many people being impacted by your process of breaking a horse and the allegory and the story that you add into it and stuff, that she just was like, this is a must need. Like the men in our audience, especially the men in our audience, women as well, but the men in our audience really need to hear from Todd's voice and some of the journey that he's been on inside of his life, because more than just the mentoring that you do or the breaking of horses, there is something about your personal journey from being like, would you say you were kind of one of the classic men, kind of like the dude? How would I don't know.
Now that I'm on this side of things, I would look back and say, obviously that is what I thought of myself. I wouldn't have said that at the time. I just thought I was a dude. I'm a cowboy. And cowboy has its own, obviously we got our own swagger.
And inside of that swagger and that cowboyness, so to say, would you say there was a big part of you that was disconnected from your heart?
Yeah, great terminology. I would have said no, but absolutely. If somebody asked me what I felt, I don't think that I ever would have had an answer. I would have told you what I think or what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm feeling.
Right. And I think that there's been such a profound journey that you've been on to get to the point where you can actually talk about your feelings and connect to that. I think there's a group of men out there that's dying for a guy like you. That's like, you were a Billy badass in your arena. And I think that you're meant to be a trailblazer. You're meant to point towards men with that history and go, hey guys, guess what? There's a whole life on the other side of this. And this is what it potentially can look like for you. But I want to get into starting with what it looks like and what you do with horses and stuff like that, and how you came into breaking horses and how it got involved in teaching people things about life and their own self. So,
boy, where to start? I'll just really tell you the quick story where it came from. Was I was in college. I was a super functional alcoholic, sex addict, badass, I guess is what you said. Love to fight.
You look scrappy.
Yeah. Well, I probably had the small man syndrome. So, because I'm a small guy, but I was scrappy. But the whole deal was this guy walked up to me right in the middle of a public place in college and said, "Hey, did you know God loves you and has a plan for your life?" And I was like, "Who are you? And what are you doing in my
Get
space?
the hell out of my face."
Yeah. And
guy.
But long story short, like it was a legit, like I wanted to give my life to Jesus, but I hated Christians and the church and all of that stuff. And so I'm just on my own journey. So I was working with a horse one day, and it was a bit frustrating because the horse, I worked him around in a circle in a round pen, and he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't face me. I just couldn't get him to cooperate at all. And I actually started talking out loud to the horse, and I had never done that before, but everything I said, I felt like, oh, this is actually God speaking to me. Like,
wow.
These aren't my words.
So you're having this conversation with this horse.
Yeah, and I'm like, why are you running from me? All I want to do is help you. You're scared. If you just trust me, I've got great things for you. You're killing yourself, man. Just stop.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, dude, that is so me. And so every time I worked with a horse after that, it became like this was my God speaking to me in a really personal way, a way that I could see and feel and touch and understand. And so I would say that my journey in getting out of, a lifestyle of addiction and hatred and anger really was this journey with a horse.
Wow.
And no one knew about it. It was, very private. But fast forward throughout my rodeo career, I just realized how much I really loved people.
Can I ask about horses real quick?
Yeah.
And tell me about that. But did you become really great at breaking horses? I mean, is that something that...
I did. I was actually a horse jockey at the time. I was also a pole vaulter in college, so I was doing that.
I didn't know you were. I didn't know you were a horse jockey.
Yeah. So I was a big horse jockey, but in Idaho, the tracks there, it's just like if you'll ride the suckers, I'll stay on them. But but I did become pretty good at starting horses. I wasn't a great trainer as far as long term, but right. I got really good at it.
And so you're getting good at that, and you realize as you're still over with the PBR. So you're
No, at this time this is pre rodeo. So I actually started pro rodeo after college.
Okay.
So I was training horses throughout college. Had this encounter, went into pro rodeo. My wife and I, it was my high school sweetheart.
Really?
Ended up getting married. And
when did you guys get together? Like 16, 17 or something?
She was 15 and I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we just hit the rodeo trail, went to 120 rodeos a year.
Oh my God, you're traveling all the time then at that point.
We put 100 and something thousand miles on a pickup the first year.
Wow.
Plus flying. So it's a gnarly lifestyle. So you're going, 9-0 the whole time, living on beans but it was just great experience. But through that time, you're rodeoing, you're competing, lots of injuries that you're having to deal with, the travel, it's super unique lifestyle, but it's a great community.
Yeah.
So even though you're from all over the world, you're going to the same rodeos with these guys.
So what you're experiencing is kind of like a family bonding experience that's happening.
Yeah. And I think it'd be similar to those that almost fight in war together. Yeah. It's like those brothers become so close to you because you've been in the trenches together. Yeah. And even though it wasn't necessarily a life or death thing that we did together, right. It was dangerous.
Well, it's pretty intense. Bull riding and
intense
stuff.
And we're all sharing the same struggles and but having to man up and get through it and pay the price and don't whine and, just all these beautiful life lessons that makes you super hard. But legitimately, I found that I really cared for people and I didn't really have language for it. It was just that I would journal And I'd start reading back through my journals, and it got decreasingly about the competition and increasingly about all the relationships and the people I was able to help and encourage and influence. And
How
my
old
wife
were you
and
at
I
this
were doing
time?
that.
Mid-20s?
Mid-20s, yeah. And I rodeoed up until the time I was 31.
Is that a long time inside of the rodeo?
Not really. In fact, I didn't plan on retiring. I just got hurt. And I was during the time that I had an injury, I got an invitation to come speak at a professional bull riding by a real good friend of mine that was on tour at the time, and speak with the men. And I'm like, I don't know what in the world I'm going to say, but I'll come. And long story short, I kept coming to these professional bull riding events. And after the third one, I actually realized that I think I'm done riding. Like, this was what I was born for.
Wow.
Everything started to make sense. It's like, oh.
And you kind of fell into that.
Yeah, totally fell into it. No plan at all.
Which I love that, because so many people want a plan. So many men are going, what does my future look like? And you're just kind of following the nuggets that are right in front of you and seeing how life unfolds in it.
Yeah, it was a principle that I think that I learned early on that I didn't realize how significant it was that just do today really well.
Yeah.
Do it with your whole heart and trust your heart enough that you can just go for it.
Yeah.
And it's not whether you win or lose at this point. It's just, how did you do today? And if you do a series of days really, really good, you can, you just kind of find your journey.
I agree. It's probably the number one lesson I learned in getting where I'm at even now, is like, all I know is how to grind away at what's right in front of me, enjoy it, give my best to it, and see what unfolds as it happens. And yeah, I mean, there's dreams inside of my heart, like, yeah, maybe I'd like this or that, but I'm willing for those to get knocked way off course.
Yeah.
If there's actually a leading that takes me a different direction.
Yeah.
So what are you finding? Like, so you come in and you break the horse at that point and talk to the guys and break the horse, or how did the horses get introduced to like what you were doing? Or
the whole horse breaking illustration, it really became, it started at an Indian reservation. Was the first time I actually had the thought that I could actually use this as a teaching tool for others to see. And pretty crazy setting up there. It was
describe to me like what happened in that first one and how you broke the horse and what that kind of unfolded and looked like for everyone. And
okay, well, there was an extremely intoxicated man sitting on the rails of this round pen. So it's just a circular corral, and there was a horse in it. And I asked him if it was his horse, and he said, "No, it's my friend's horse." And I said, "What's its story?" And he's like, "No one can touch it." And
really?
And I said, "Do you mind if I get in there and mess with it a little bit?"
He's drunk and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to see you get in with this horse. That'd be
go
great,
for it, bro." and so I got in there, and I had no intentions of doing anything other than I just had kind of some downtime between some lessons I was teaching as far as rodeo events. And so I got in there and started working with the horse, and I started telling this guy what I was doing. But I felt myself back in that moment when I first started speaking to the horse out loud.
Wow.
And so I'm working with this horse, just with this one dude sitting on the fence, and within 10 or 15 minutes, I'm on the horse. And he's stone sober now. And he's like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, totally. That was perfect. And I'm like, this is what happens when genuine love comes into a space where there's nothing but fear. And I didn't even have that terminology in me. It was just like what came out.
Because he opens up out of you.
Because he was just legitimately, that didn't just happen. I wasn't that drunk. I've seen some shit, but not like that. And so that was how it all began. And
So he walks away kind of throttled about it, and you all of a sudden have this like,
I'm thinking,
oh, that
was so cool.
And that was on the Indian reservation, or that? Okay, so while you were there teaching other things, this moment happens, and all of a sudden you have this aha that this can be brought in to actually communicate something really powerful to people.
Yep. And so when I was working with the Professional Bull Riding Tour, they're held in large venues, so they're typically, professional basketball stadiums or things of that nature, Dallas Stadium. They're large venue events. And so we would do what we call faith nights, which at the end of the competition, we would invite people to stay and watch me do this presentation with the horse. And so realized this is like not just entertaining to watch, not just something that people want to come see, because nobody gets on a horse in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's impossible when it's never been touched. It's not going to happen.
And so just from a horsemanship side of it, there was obviously that draw, but there was such a message of hope and what love looks like. And it's done in a, if you'll call it a stereotypical cowboy masculine, where...
Can you describe what it looked like? Like maybe walk us a little bit further through the process, or would that be okay?
For sure. Really the nature of a horse is they want to live independent, but they have needs. And so their instincts are all to keep them protected, which is something you need when you're out in the wild.
Yeah. Keep yourself safe.
Keep yourself safe.
Could hurt you.
Get food, get water, have sex, sleep. That's pretty much...
Sounds legitimate.
Yeah. It's like what every man needs. And so what they don't realize is they're actually created for something far more than just survival.
Yeah.
And so, a cow, for instance, that's kind of why we breed them, is to eat them. Right? They're just born to die. It's sad, but that's really, they don't have any purpose other
There's
than
nothing
that.
going on in you, cow.
No.
You need to die.
Yeah. So I don't know if I should share. Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, okay. So the first time out after I had the encounter at the reservation, that I started how deep this really went for me was I was on a ranch down in Texas. My wife and I were down there doing some rodeos, and I'd asked this guy if there's anything I could do around his place to help. And he said, do you know anything about training horses? And I'm like, yeah, like I can train horses, but I haven't seen anything but cows around here and some goats. And he says, no, I've got a horse. This horse.
And this horse is an a-hole.
I have a horse that its mom died when it was just a foal.
Wow.
And it grew up with my cows.
Wow.
And
so it doesn't know.
It doesn't know what it is. And
it's powerful.
So I'm like, well, let's see if we can get him gathered up. And we had this makeshift pen that we got. It actually had a tree in the pen with us. And I started working with this horse. Well, I noticed that this audience started gathering around me of cows. It's like all the cows wanted to see what their ugly brother was doing and why he's running around in circles. And I noticed as I was working with this horse that every time I gave an opportunity to stop, he would look over the fence towards the cows. And the cows are laying in the shade. They're chewing their cud. Every once in a while you'd hear, "Meow." But it was totally distracting to this horse. It's like his people, his audience is out there. He wanted to get back to them. And the whole metaphor to me was, it was like, dude, those things are just getting fattened for slaughter. They can't help you. I'm the only one really that's going to give you some hope. You got to see that you're a different creation than that there's something about you that has, a destiny and a calling and a legacy to leave. And you can do some really cool stuff. So you gotta give me your attention. And
this is so powerful. I love this. This is great.
And again, these were all just brand new, fresh thoughts at the moment.
Yeah.
And my wife's watching the whole thing too. And so when the horse finally quit looking to what it thought was its people.
It's people. I'm like that. No, you're not.
No, you're
quit
not.
Looking this
nothing
way.
Like them. And this horse was like, he did stuff like cows do. He didn't even act like a horse. He tried to go under the fence rather than a horse will always jump a fence, where cows will try to push through the fence or go under it. They just do stupid stuff. running into the panels head first. And it's like, dude, you're never going to get horns either. It's like you're stuck. You are what you are. Anyway, super radical conversion for the horse. It was like done with the cow thing. He fell in love with people within just a couple days.
Really? So he completely is over it and doesn't want to act like a cow at all?
No.
He realizes that there's something inside of him that's suddenly being pulled out of him through the way that you're working with him, that he has access to that he didn't before. And now he's loving it because somehow this animal is connected to a piece of his identity.
Yep. He realized that people are actually his connection.
Wow.
And that he was created to serve them.
Wow.
And that's where he found all of his power and his identity, and found peace, and found what it's like to be brought into being taken care of and preserved rather than fattened for slaughter, so to speak.
So is that part of something that you share with people when you're breaking the horses, or what's part of what you share in breaking the horses specifically? Like when they're watching, what does that specifically look like as you unfold that process?
Obviously every horse is different, but the instinct of the horse is obviously going to be to run and avoid me. Mm-hmm. But through its own,
like you said, the instinct of every horse is to run and avoid me. Yeah. Which is that parabolic or allegory of our hearts, where we run from love, we run from connection with our Creator and everything, to run away from it.
Yeah. Keep your head down, stay busy, and just avoid this thing, that there's something inside me that wants to resist it.
Yeah.
But because of their own exhaustion, which can come pretty quickly, because it's not just like they're physically tired. It's like, okay, I'm done running around in circles. What do you want? And so when a horse is running around in the circle, I'm waiting for them to communicate to me, which I can just read in how they carry themselves, that he's ready to look at me. And all I need is his eyes.
Wow.
So when I give him an opportunity to stop and he looks at me, then all I want to do is keep my eyes locked on his eyes. And every time he looks away, I'll step back and he'll look at me again. And through that process of back and forth, pretty quickly, once I can get eye to eye, face to face, get my hands on him, I believe there's a transfer that takes place there, because horses, like if we get outside of the illustration, horses are created to live in a herd. So they're either going to rule or they're going to be ruled.
Right.
So that horse actually wants my strength, and is realizing at that moment that I'm not only am I powerful, but I'm kind.
Yeah.
And this is where the whole encounter.
You're not there to hurt it.
No.
You're actually there to liberate him and help him and partner with him.
Yep. It's like, dude,
even in the bonding
processes,
if I'm riding you, it's we're here to be connected to each other. Mm-hmm. It's not just to use you.
No, when we come together, you're going to become something so much more than you've ever dreamt of. Mm-hmm. That there's things that you haven't even had the mind to perceive, because you've been fenced in your whole life.
Yeah, and now we can actually harness your strength and utilize it, and maximize the strength that's just been kind of unbridled and just not directed at anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is powerful. So you end up locking the eyes, getting close, getting connected to this horse. The horse finally settles in that you're kind, you're not there to hurt him. And what happens in that then?
Then he has a conflict. The conflict is, okay, this feels really good. I'm loving this. And then he's like, whoa. There's some boundaries here. You don't touch me there. You don't go there. We don't talk about that. Which means their instinct is, most of all, to keep anything off of its back. That's a protective instinct. They kick, they bite, they buck, they'll do whatever to keep me from that space.
Wow.
But what they don't know is that I'm getting in that space, and I love you, and I will stay so peaceful and calm and kind.
Wow.
No matter what you do. I'm going to get there. And so whether it takes me 5 minutes or 50 minutes, and I always get on them just bareback without anything on them.
Right. Wow.
Simply because I want them to know that this is not this is a step of faith. You're actually going to have to trust me with something that is brand new to you. And so that's where the entertainment side of it comes in. Because I get my ass handed to me regularly in the
being bucked to the ground.
Bucked off, kicked. I have been bit a couple times, which horses aren't really notorious for biting, but they do bite. And when they do, they know how to.
So you're not taking this personal?
No, it's like, I understand why you're afraid, and I don't react to its anger or fear or even violence. I have, and that's where this managing yourself thing is like, what's going on inside of me is really what the horse is picking up on. They're like a dog can smell a seizure.
Oh, yeah.
This horse can sense what I'm feeling.
And so they actually uses horses in therapy just because of that, right?
Yeah.
Tons
They're
of horse therapy.
Excellent therapists.
Yeah.
Because they get you.
Yeah, they actually feel you and understand you.
Yeah. So if I go in there angry, anxious, demanding, I may be able to use brute force and training techniques to break them.
Right.
But if I go in there really with...
Does that destroy something in the horse, though, when guys do it like that?
It not only does it destroy something, but it's only a temporary fix.
Right.
If you broke them, they can get unbroke.
Right.
If you connect with them, they're yours forever.
Wow. Which I think is, that allegory with people and the power of love. Like when we come at it with violence and viciousness and anger and trying to get people to submit to us, whether it's us with people or actually a connection with our Creator, if God were to come in and just be violent and angry and gruff, you can break them, but we as humans with our own will are going to be unbroken, and we're going to go messy again anyways. And really it comes down to, even in relationships with people, my goal is all I can do is love them well. And if I actually love them well and build a connection, that's going to be a long-term bond. And it's not going to be about controlling. It's going to be about an invitation to into a journey with another human being. And that's really what it sounds like with the horse. Like when you actually come in from that posture, all of a sudden it's really you saying, hey, I'm inviting you into something, and we're going to experience things that you've never experienced together.
Yeah, I think it's just a great model for leadership in general. I'm a father. I'm a husband. If we just talk about those areas of influence, that I can teach you what I know, but I'm going to impart to you who I am.
Right.
And that what's going on inside of me is actually what's governing the temperature of the room in my house.
Yeah.
I set the mood, and so tons of accountability in that, because you want to find out how good Todd Pierce is doing, just ask my wife and kids. And so those are those areas where, like if you want to bring that stillness, and that's obviously where you came into my picture was, man, I could do this really good with horses. How am I going to do this with people? The people that I love the most and the people that I want to have the greatest level of impact on.
Did you feel like, well, there's a few other questions. So let me, I want to go into that really quick, but before I go to it, I want to go back here. So ultimately, how does that wind us down and wrap that up on what that looks like for people who are watching and experiencing it in some of...
Yeah, so as the process goes, typically within 15 to 20 minutes, I'm riding the horse with just a halter. We're able to walk around, and I can direct where he goes. Eventually, within, after maybe another 10 minutes, I'll put a saddle on them, which is another introduction of a brand new thing that's super scary to them and intimidating, and they've never had anything attached to them.
Wow.
And so that's where a lot of times more resistance will come in. But
and all you're doing is building trust. It's about this trust exercise. Like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. You can actually trust me. I'm here for you. I'm not going to remove all your freedom or whatever that happens to be. It
actually builds trust with me, with the animal as well, because the more they fail, the more opportunities we have to go deeper.
Wow, the more messy they get or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, it's the ones that never make a mistake that scare me, because I'm waiting for that big...
When they'll go nuts at a point later on.
Yeah, when I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting.
But you're postured for the mistakes and for the messiness in that moment, and you'd rather just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, just give it to me. It's fine. Be messy. That's
You're-
powerful.
You're not going to change my opinion of you.
Uh-huh. That's so good. So go ahead and continue.
Well, and so the process becomes, now the horse has had a revelation. He's accepted a truth that this love that this man carries, is the model of what Jesus did. It was, he didn't form a religion. He didn't try to convert anybody.
Yeah.
He didn't have any agenda other than the only thing that he opposed was man's agenda.
Yeah.
Everybody trying to fix everybody else.
Control everybody.
Yeah, it's control mechanisms. And he's like, you're so free to be you around me, but I love you so much that you can't be around me and stay the same, because my nature itself is what's changing who you are.
Yeah.
And so like that was the real encounter that I had with Jesus.
Wow.
That made it to where I had to figure out what to do with the church outside of that.
Yeah, because it was so opposite of
What I saw in
the space inside of religion.
Yeah.
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 Because you're like, I just know I have I have a connection with a creator who loves me in the midst of my messiness.
Yep. And made it to where I don't have to stay this way.
Yeah.
Like he's actually now given me power to become something brand new.
Yeah.
And so I'll say this frequently, is that it's not just a horse now with a rider.
Yeah.
It is a new creation, because it's now capable of things that have never even entered its mind.
Wow.
It wouldn't ever do what it's going to do the rest of its life now.
Right.
If he would have been left out to pasture or never brought into a space of connection.
Yeah, that's powerful. So the conversation, do you have conversation as that happening, or do they just watch you break it, or are you sharing
I've got
the
a microphone
process as it's happening?
I've got a head mic on, and so I am talking them through what's going on. And the beauty of it for me is that it never gets old, because every horse has got its own, super unique personality and issues and strengths and weaknesses. And so everyone gives you a different opportunity to explain the dynamic of what's actually happening. But if you think about it, Jesus, he was such a great teacher. Whether you believe he was the Son of God or not, you got to admit the dude could teach.
Yeah.
And he would pick up a vine and a branch, and he would say, okay, there is a vine and there's a branch. Unless the branch stays connected to the vine, it's never going to bear fruit.
Yeah.
And so he purposely used pictures like that.
Yeah,
and
simple parables, allegories, whatever it was, these the parables that he did, just to speak to the human condition.
Yep, and it sticks.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
Uh-huh.
And so every time I feel anxious or fearful, I have to take a step back and say, okay, where have I disconnected here?
Yeah.
Whether it's with, God, what have I done to disconnect from you? Or sweetheart, my wife.
Uh-huh. Or my kids.
Yeah. Or even
myself.
To your point, your heart,
Uh-huh.
like connected to your own heart. So it's really just the synergy that comes out of staying connected.
Wow. So out of that, like you said, you realized, hey, I'm doing this with horses over here, and I don't know that I'm actually making this applicable to my family and how I'm deeper relating myself to my kids, my wife. Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I felt like a hypocrite. And I wasn't.
Which is interesting, because I think if I were to think about it, I'd be like, oh, but you were just in the first phase, which was the first phase of being broken inside of your own pen of life, until the next phase of maybe the saddle being put on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily a hypocrite. It's just like, no, he's just running you in a pen right now.
Sure. This is next.
Pieces of it. Yeah. There's a piece of the journey, but go ahead.
So the next level obviously is, okay, I don't know how or why, but somehow I've lost my joy. I feel depressed. My family sees me do one thing in public and come home and be emotionally just completely bankrupt. I don't have anything to give emotionally.
Did you feel distant? Did you feel aggressive? Did you feel, I mean, what was that? What was their experience potentially of you in that space?
Maybe numb. I think I was, no energy, no enthusiasm. I would try to force myself to be, and I could do that for a while, but I'd find myself just staring off into space, like I'm just zapped. And this went on for years. while I'm serving people.
All these people out here.
All these people.
But the family's not being taken care of. Or
Right.
not getting the best parts of you.
Right. Still, I will say I'm still super engaged. We spend a lot of time together, but
Right.
they didn't get the best of me.
Right.
What we would say was that my family got the leftovers.
Yeah.
And so once the leftovers was gone, I was just gone. And so that's what ended up landing me in this crazy guy's chair. But
So you got landed in my office. But what, I know that provoked it, but what provoked it? Was it a fight with your wife? Was it like you heard something about me or what? And it like,
it was probably a decade of fights with my wife that got me there. Not a fight.
Was there a final breaking moment where it all accumulated and she was like, go get your ass in somebody's office.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
like,
take it.
Okay, so this is all brand new. I'm not going to go to a counselor, even though I counsel people all the time. I don't have an office and I don't have a couch and I don't have that. I'm like, I can't believe I'm actually going to go do this. But you and Abby had such a significant impact on my son, who was here in Reading, that he was like, if you're going to go to anybody, you need to see if you can get in with Justin. And so I think I sent you an email or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got together and like, you actually want me to tell you what?
Yeah. How was that first meeting, Todd? How did that go for you, buddy?
Well, here we are. We're all men now. So I came in your office and got on the couch and I was like having this, like, I'm really pissed off right now. And,
you felt like the horse you talk about.
Yeah, you asked me, what are you feeling? I'm like, feeling. Okay, we're going to talk about my feelings. I feel pissed is what I feel. And you said, why? And I said, that I'm paying you to sit on this couch and talk to you about how I feel. And so your answer was like, well, then why are you here? Like, you're the one obviously with the problem. And I'm like, I don't even know that I have a problem other than I don't know why I'm messing up my family. And I love them so much. And so I think I bawled and snotted for the next 45 minutes. And
I turned you upside down, huh?
It was like, yeah, whatever you did, just like tore something open inside of me that has needed to get touched for a long time.
How'd you feel about me going out of there?
Obviously, super intrigued. I'll use different language, but
well, you're gonna censor yourself,
we get to the end of the meeting, and then you asked me again. So, what do you feel now? And I'm like, the first thing that went through my mind was, I feel like we've really connected, and it's got to be hard for you, in which I'm speaking to you. It's got to be hard for you to just like end this conversation and have someone else walk in after me. And you looked at me with like this really perplexed look, like you said, dude, this is your effing problem, not mine. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to go back to that guy because I want to find out how he just did that, because you were so good at taking care of me in the moment, yet you were able to keep yourself in a place where not only do you have a ton of love and compassion for me, but when I left your space,
I didn't have over responsibility for you.
This actually was my problem. And that didn't feel mean. That actually felt, one, I wanted to learn how to do that with other people because I realized that's what I hadn't been able to do. But two, it's like, no, this is actually, you're the powerful person here. This is your problem, but it's also yours to fix. And there's a lot of tools we need each other to do this stuff, but super empowering, deal where, and I think there's probably a lot of men out there. It's like, why would I go to a counselor?
Yeah.
I'd say don't go to a counselor unless he's really good. But there's so much that I've learned in the last 2 years as a result of those conversations that I had with you and your book, Tree of Life. And,
Yeah, I think I gave that to you. Didn't I have you read that and say you need to connect to your childlike wonder again and get connected to the kid inside and face some of your pain in that? Or?
Yeah, you started using a lot of phrases like that I'm okay with now. I'm like, this is like a super cool, gnarly dude. But you're talking about feelings way too much. But
that's what I love. That's what was hysterical to me. What I loved about you was you came in and, like I said, you were a guy's guy. You're in you're kind of like the classic, not machismo, but like the classic cowboy that I grew up with. Just the normal dudes that are just like love people, wanna help people, but they're disconnected from their heart. And the word feelings gets a little scary when you actually get honest with it with regards to yourself. And I was like, I love this guy. I can tell he hates me just a little bit when I'm pushing here, but I love getting to work with just a normal guy who represents so many other men out there. And so, but I know that I definitely was pissing you off at times, but you also, I came at you as a normal guy.
Yep.
As well.
No, you weren't afraid.
No, I wasn't afraid. It was like an alpha to alpha conversation that was happening.
Yeah.
That was going, but here's what I'm curious about. What was one of the hardest things in my office that you had to overcome that stands out to you or that you had to face?
I think it was probably for the first time I was able to say, I need help.
Yeah.
And that was such a foreign, deal to me. Like, I'm not actually going to ask somebody for help here, but I really need help because the last thing I want to do is leave this office and go back to my home and hurt my family because of what's going on inside of me. And so that would be, obviously the biggest issue was I was able to say that I'm afraid and I need help. Yeah. And those are not easy things for me to say. Yeah. At least they weren't. I'm so cool with it now. Like,
yeah.
Help! I still need help.
Help! SOS!
I'm good. Nope, I'm not good. and so the organic nature, I guess, of male relationships that I've had, even as I've mentored men and helped them think differently, help them act differently, help them perform better. I was really good at that.
Yeah.
But how to actually deal with the fact that we are still emotional beings.
Yeah.
We're comfortable with anger. We're comfortable maybe with laughter or that kind of emotion, but we don't know how to actually discover how deeply emotionally we are.
Yeah.
And if you harden that heart, it's going to affect you. And it's going to end up ruling your life. Everything in your life is going to come out of how well you've taken care of your heart. And so unless we learn to talk about our feelings and our emotions, you're stuck. Like you're going to keep getting the same results that you've always got.
I love that. Well, let me back up real quick. I love that you were tender enough right there just a minute ago to allow yourself to even tear up and, get choked up inside of this. Because Todd wasn't going to do that when he first came into my office.
No way was I going to do that. Even now, and I guess maybe that's just weird that I'm feeling this much right now, but after our second meeting, I went in there way more willing, and I think it took no time at all before I was a mess again. And this is embarrassing, but whatever. I actually was having a come apart. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do, Justin, because it's almost like I had sucked it up as long as I possibly could. Yeah. And once you opened that deal where I can actually feel something, I realized how scared I really was. Yeah. And you called my wife and had her come into the office and actually helped her understand what was going on and helped her know how to cooperate with, okay, your husband's just having something's come alive in him, and it's going to be messy here for a little bit, and you need to understand that your husband's not having a nervous breakdown. He's actually getting healed.
Yep.
And
I remember that day.
So that was super cool.
And I think that that's a huge key in this, is that so many of us are, I've talked about this in the past, but so many of us are so scared to tap that well because we think it's going to destroy us, rather than it's an on-ramp to liberate us.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what's happening. Oh, when I begin to feel, if I have the permission to cry, the permission to feel the pain, and a loving environment that sees me, I'm not going to be destroyed by it. I'm actually going to get the healing that's necessary. If I stay in a posture of compassion towards myself and have compassion from a few people around me, it's, again, not going to send me into a world where I never climb out of it. But so many people are scared of going to a really dark place if they actually feel. But that fear is an illusion that's there to keep them from their authentic identity. Fear stands between us and who we're made to be. And it wants to keep us inside of a box. And it goes, no, don't feel this. Don't feel this. It'll get really bad for you. Bad things will happen. And it wants to continue to rule and reign over our lives. And the minute we go, all right, I'm going to face that fear, we realize fear is an illusion and love is on the other side of it. And it's there to catch us, not destroy us.
Yeah, you're saying so much there, bro. Like I want to shout it from the rooftops now, where I've got so many super tough men around me.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be gnarly, tough dudes. Are gonna, the toughest of the tough are going to be the guys riding bulls and taking the battle scars and that, right?
It's just our culture.
Yeah.
That's how you survive. And there is no, there's a $5 fine for whining kind of deal. Like, shut up and
shut your damn mouth. Get over it.
Let's just press on.
Yeah.
And
maybe drink a beer.
Yeah, that's the best advice I had. Was, I don't know, bro. Pray about it. Have a beer. But you're exactly right. If you've got enough balls to just say that I'm afraid of it.
Yep.
And
I need help.
And that I need help, then it's kind of like the alcoholic, that finally comes to the place where,
says,
okay,
I got a problem.
Yeah, actually, I've got a problem here. And if you're listening and you're one of those men, they're like, I just don't talk about, I don't even know how to talk about or who to talk about my feelings with, that that's what I know yours and Abby's heart is to help people get the tools and the information that they need to where we can start having a dialogue where this isn't just some touchy-feely, let's sit in a counselor's office and cry for a little while. We're getting healed to where we can go and be fully who we were created to be. And it's just so liberating in that that as a cowboy, I'll stand here and say it. Let's talk about how you're feeling, because it matters.
Yeah.
And I'm finding really, really tough men that are super famous and no one would ever expect this from them, but they've been just waiting for someone to help them feel some of this stuff. And it is not inhibiting their performance. It's making them way better dads, way better fathers, way better athletes, because we were created to feel. And if we've got to process through some things, then let's get those things cleaned up.
Yeah, I think that I've gone through phases. I'm going to talk about a couple things here real quick. I've gone through phases of being really vulnerable in my own life and getting to a point where I can ask for help. And help was the biggest struggle that I had. And I think that a lot of men have, especially because we have experiences as young kids where we're told, like, we'll figure it out, get over it, figure it out. There's these type of experiences that leave us going, I shouldn't need help. I should already have the answers to this. What's wrong with me? Why don't I have the answers? And so we become very self-sufficient. And so for me, there's been waves of getting out of self-sufficiency. And I know I talked about this on one of our podcasts recently, the idea that I'm even going to a much deeper place of breaking self-sufficiency inside of my own life. And I'm not talking about becoming an incapable person. I'm very capable and I'm managing my life well, but self-sufficiency in the way of like, for so many years in my own life, I could heal myself. And even when I went into counselor's office, there were counselors where I could run circles around them, and somehow I would almost even manage the counseling sessions because I would know certain levels of what I needed, but I wouldn't actually just hand my life fully over to them and be like, all right, what do you want to do? I'm going to just fully let you run this show. I'm just going to submit here. Even if I think you're wrong, I'm not going to try and take the reins. I'll go on this. I wasn't fully allowing myself to do that. And in this season, as I've been healing of complex PTSD, because there's been a trauma season that has been brought up in my life of like, let's heal deeper levels of trauma in your body and your being that you haven't been able to do yet. And that invitation has been beautiful. But a key part of that invitation is allowing myself to be in a posture of not being the biggest person in the room, not being the most competent or capable. And so even in my masculine relationships with guys, I mean, I was sitting down with a guy the other day, and I just started sharing with him my heart about my life. He had problems. I didn't solve any of his problems. Even though I could have, I didn't take a posture of power like, oh, I'll come in, I'll serve him and not share anything about me. It was, oh, I'm sorry that's happening. Here's pain going on in my life. And no one had to be the bigger person. It was just sitting there exchanging and not having to be self-sufficient. And I made an invitation. Hey, what do you think about this? Irregardless of whether I thought he was qualified enough to speak into it, I was just like, okay, what do you think? And I was like, oh, that was great. And that was very freeing for me to just have that exchange. So I'm repurposing how I operate even more so than I did before in the way of, I need help. I need help. I need help. I'm going to be so vulnerable, but also know that I'm completely capable. I totally could. I could take the reins and just move through this season and make it happen, but that wouldn't cure the core issue. Yeah. So
I think that's tough for everybody that's listening to this is a leader in some realm.
Yeah.
And so us as leaders at whatever level you're leading is to find a place to go. And that's what's been super healthy for me being, in this city, is that nobody knows me and I can walk into a place and be completely a student.
Just a normal guy.
Just a normal guy that's living life just like everybody else.
No expectations from you.
Yeah. And having those types of relationships like you're describing.
Yeah.
Where, your self-sufficiency almost comes because you're the most powerful one generally. In your space. And so you've got to really look for those places where you can go and be that vulnerable.
And we become the most powerful person in our space, usually to survive and to protect. Like, I'm going to learn how to, there's purity in everything I've done and purity in the heart of what you've done with regards to helping people. But there's also a posture of, if I can help a lot of people, I can be really protected. Because I don't need anything. I am the most powerful person here, so I don't have to really let down my guard in the moment of I'm super broken.
Yeah, just even having this conversation, the timing of it, Justin, just this morning I was sitting in a conference, and one of the things that really got pointed out to me is that I was afraid of my voice.
Wow.
I look at what I do, even though I do a lot of things publicly and I've got a microphone on, I feel really comfortable hiding behind a horse and doing those things. And so to be on the podcast where there's nothing but my voice is, 3 hours ago, I was just having this epiphany of I'm actually afraid of my voice. And it had nothing to do with me knowing I was going to be on this. It was just like in my life.
Wow.
It's not that I'm just afraid of public speaking. I think everybody gets nervous about that. It's that I don't know that I have anything really of that great value to say.
Oh, wow. And so it pushes that button, like that comes up and you go, oh, somewhere deep inside of me, there's this belief that says, I don't know if I really have something worth giving away.
Yeah.
As far as saying.
Absolutely. And that's
super
place.
Fresh as of today.
That's a right now thing. And
I love that you're sharing that.
Yeah.
That's friggin' awesome to share.
It sucks. It's almost like, I love people. want to help, and I feel almost as though I'm paralyzed in my words, even though I feel like, I've been put in a position of influence.
Yeah.
What am I going to say? How am I
Yeah.
going to help?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that that's a legitimate, the fear that I've had.
Well,
that's held me back.
And I think that what's really powerful about this in this moment is that there's a lot of people that are listening where they might go, oh, I should be further along than I am. They have all these shoulds inside of their head of where they should be, especially if they're in leadership. And you did the best with what you knew how to do up until now. Mm-hmm. And you moved through life going, this is what I have to give away. And I'm not perfect. And I do have a fear that you weren't even aware of, but you had your fears all the way up until now that you were carrying. And you get to this point, and as a leader who has been really impactful in a very specific realm, you're able to stand here and say, and yet I still don't have it all together. And here's a fresh fear that's right in front of me right now. And the rest of you who are listening don't have to have it all together.
Right. Before you start moving. Before
you have impact and you're safe, it doesn't make you more weak. This moment doesn't make you weak as a leader. It actually, and you know that, I mean, that's obvious between us, but for those listening, that doesn't make Todd weak as a leader. It actually makes him the most potent as a leader right now, because all of a sudden he's just liberated hundreds and thousands of people who listen to this who go, oh, I have the freedom to be on my journey too.
Yeah. And that is something that I was taught to hide from a very young age. Mm-hmm. You don't show weakness. And if you have a weakness, you better find some way to compensate with it. You better perform more, show more results, give off, whether it's your looks or your job or what you drive. There's got to be something to help me, to prop me up in all these areas that I'm weak in. And obviously that's why we're having this conversation, is that we find that's actually where we find our strength, is in being this vulnerable, in that I'm done hiding anything.
Yeah.
Yet it's not going to keep me in the same spot that, it's not going to cause me to shrink back. Yeah. And if me being literally naked in front of everybody else, and as long as I can empower other people to realize that we're all in this together, that none of us have got it all figured out, and you can start right where you're at, and I think we just keep disqualifying ourselves.
Yeah. I think that we could end on that note, but I want to ask one other thing, and you have the freedom to say, no, we're not going to go into that, and I'll back off of it, and we'll wrap it. But we had a conversation that I think that this is kind of a powerful full circle. We had a conversation over breakfast one morning where you shared about a major fail with your kids, one of your kids, and then you shared about a major win on the other side of it at some level. And the fail showcased the pain that you were in and how you responded maybe poorly as a father figure before you had connected to your emotions and connected to compassion. Whereas the other side of the story revealed the healing journey for you and what that was able to do for one of your children. Is there a way that you'd feel comfortable maybe sharing either side of it? And if not, that's okay as well.
I absolutely feel comfortable doing it.
You can verbally process what you
okay. What I'm feeling right now is, okay, how do I really do this justice? So a lot of what we deal with in life was things that were in our formative years. Yeah. We don't realize how, that's not just a psychological thing. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Your belief system was formed at a really young age, and whoever the most powerful person was in your life at that time,
the authority figure,
that authority figure, that they helped form your thoughts and belief on what you can do, what you're capable of, what your identity is. And so we're having conversations with my sons now where they're able to share with me times that they remember where I mishandled a situation.
Yeah.
And I think the time that you're referring to is about when I took Colton up on the course. Mm-hmm. So my son got to the age where he was now full of testosterone, and I had no tools to deal with it other than, if you want to challenge me, let's have a challenge.
Let's see who can be the most dominant.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to challenge me in my home and you're my son, my way of dealing with it was, he came home from school one day. I had the horses loaded in the trailer. I said, get in the truck, and didn't say a word, and drove as hard and fast as I could to the, 10 minutes away to the base of a mountain, and told him to get on his horse. And he got on his horse, and we rode to the top of this mountain. And I got off my horse, took my coat off, and said, if you want to challenge me, let's do it right now, because one of us is coming down off this mountain that's going to be ruling this house. Mm-hmm. And, he wouldn't even get off his horse. So that was how aggressive I was.
Right.
And that
I'm going to prove I'm going to dominate, and that's the best tools I know how. Just show you who's in power. It was lacked any investigation. It's just, let me prove a point. Good. We got a point proven. Great.
Good. Yeah, we got an agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I say do something, you do it. When I say you don't do something, you don't do it. It's the only way I knew how to deal with his resistance.
Yeah.
I never would ask him what he was feeling. I didn't care what you're feeling.
Didn't care.
You do what you're told.
Do what I damn well tell you to do.
Yeah. In a conversation. And I don't even have to tell you why. It was so disrespectful and dishonoring towards him as a young man.
Yeah.
That you sow dishonor, you get dishonor back.
Yeah.
And so I picked that fight with them. We go on through life, and here now he's got some tools, and it's like, okay, here was my experience of that moment, and he's able to communicate to me and actually tell me how he remembers that day going down, how that impacted him. And
was that pretty painful for him?
Not only was it painful for him, it was super painful for me to hear from him. Yeah. Because my first thing that I wanted to say was, well, that's not what I meant to do. That's, or I didn't know better. I wanted to make an excuse for it rather than just stay there and let him explain that if he felt a certain way, and it didn't work, by the way. It didn't even work.
No.
And
drove probably a wedge further.
Huge wedge. Now we're just going to have a pissing contest the rest of our life. And so for us to be able to now have these moments where I can go back to that place with him and say, son, I was so wrong, and I'm sorry. Not only that I handled it that way, but I'm sorry that, you've had to carry this all this time.
Yep.
And actually thank him for trusting me enough to be vulnerable about how he felt. And so I think as fathers, we can create a space for our children to be healed, even of our mishandlings. And so that's become kind of the theme in our house is, boys, I want to hear everything. Like you can be, if you got to yell it at me, you can talk as disrespectful as you want, because really, I don't want you to have any filters on this. This is a time and a place to do it.
For that to happen.
Yeah, we don't just do that
unload.
randomly.
Yeah, but I'm creating space for you to unload and get to what's going on.
And I'm getting it with both barrels, man. They're like, oh, great. You're actually going to listen. So when you did this, and so being able to just stay in the moment there for them, let them process it, and then just...
So you've had at some level some explosions where they're unloading, and you're in a posture of at peace because you're not taking it as a challenge. You're actually seeing that they're receiving your invitation and being honest about their pain and trying to get it out. Is that
absolutely
right?
And I learned all this from you. And so
really this story is about how awesome I am.
It is. And that Justin with no kids gets to teach me how to be a parent.
But so what you're seeing happening, what's happening in that now, what's it doing for them? And
not only is it healing their hearts and helping them get some wounds that I inflicted on them healed, it's making it where we're actually having the type of relationship that every man should be able to have with his kids.
Right.
That every man should be able to have with his father.
Honest, connected.
Super honest, and that the dad leads in a place of where everybody here is powerful.
Yeah.
I want to continue to empower you. And if me empowering
it's
you
not
means
me dominating you.
No. Now it's really about how do I come alongside you guys. And my youngest is 14, so it's not, like they're all adult kids.
Yeah.
they're still in, figuring life out for themselves, but it's just a different way of.
And you're actually getting to apply. And this is why I asked this, right? Because you're practically getting to be the man in the arena that you were with the horse.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. It is. I'm able to do now with my family what I could do with a horse, and that really was my cry.
I'm able to stand there with them, lock eyes with them, and let them know I'm actually kind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to break you.
Mm-mm.
I'm here to love you.
Yeah, that's it. That's so good.
Is that hitting you now?
Yeah,
Me saying that?
Dadgum.
Man,
yeah.
And if we haven't said it already, Justin's pretty awesome.
Justin, look at. If I could do with people what I could do with horses, I'd be Justin.
But joking aside, to wrap this up for everybody, today's an invitation. It's an invitation to some of you who have been running around an arena scared of being broken in the wrong way. And it's an invitation to actually find out, I think, number one, is there actually an unconditionally loving creator who wants to participate, an unconditionally loving father who wants to get involved in my life, and he's not there to break me. He's not there to destroy me. He's not there to chain me up with rules and regulations, but he's actually there to just participate in my journey and walk alongside me and bring healing to my process. And so it's an invitation to unconditional love and to open up parts of you that have been scared of it, scared that it's just going to hurt more. And it's an invitation to discover how healed our pain can actually become. Like there's actually an opportunity for that pain to be resolved. I think it's also an invitation here for men and women alike, but we've been having this conversation a little towards men deliberately, but to let go of our self-sufficiency, to make the statement of I need help, no matter where you're at, whether you're a leader at a high level or you're not, and you're just a young person who's walking their journey, to begin with, I need help, and face the fear of saying I need help and everything else that comes with that. And it's an invitation to reconciling not only your life, but the world around you. There are some of you that are living with such broken relationships, whether it's marriages, families, or it's friendships. And you're like, why is it so broken? Why is it so broken? And it begins with me. It begins with me willing to get broken in a healthy way. Healthy brokenness. It says, I'm willing to say I need help. I'm willing to do things differently. I'm willing to look honestly about what is my world outside of me, reflecting about the heart and what's going on inside of my personal heart. Like you said, Todd, like you want to know how Todd's doing? Ask his wife and kids. They're a mirror reflection of what's going on inside of his soul at some level. And so it's an invitation to stop and take inventory and go, what is my world reflecting to me about my heart, about my beliefs, about my approach to everything? And what is the needs that I'm really having? I'm thinking about, your relationship with the horse and the idea you talked about, horses actually have needs, and it went beyond food and water and sex. But there are some needs that may be coming to the surface as we're talking, and you just think, there may be some of you that are like, yeah, I've been really good at doing needs, but I realized today there's a part of my heart that I haven't attended to because I've been too scared of attending to it. And that's a need, and I need to attend to it today. And so if something went through your head today, don't look over that. Don't bypass that. Focus on that and give yourself time to actually sit down with it and go, all right, how does this need get met? What do I need to do to process this as it's coming up? And some of you might have even been provoked listening to Todd, even the last part of his story, talking about how he related to his kids and his family and his journey. And some of you are going, I don't feel resolved inside of my relationship with my dad. And there's an invitation for you to actually work that out. And this wasn't deliberate for this, but I do want to say, we do have the Father series. People have been hearing about it for a long time inside of this, but I think that this is a nice time to just remind you, you can go to justinandabby.com. That's abi.com. And the Father series was created. It's a 12-part audio e-course with a book that we actually wrote in a way to walk people through the counseling that they could get out of my office, to actually walk that out practically in their own life. And so that's up for sale there. And that might be a good alternative for you. If you're listening and you're like, I don't know where to go, I don't know what counselor to go to, that might be a powerful place to start, because it helps you with knowing how to connect with your feelings, not only for your father, but connect to your emotion and your feelings in general. It trains you up in a way that gives you a roadmap for, how do I do this with my mother? How do I do this with my wife, my husband, my kids, whoever it is? It gives you a roadmap for that, and you get to apply those principles everywhere. So you can go ahead and look into that. Now, Todd, is there anything else? Like, is there a way that people can contact you if they wanted to get you to come out and do what you do, or?
Well, first I want to say just the only thing that I want to add to what you were just saying there, because I can see guys sitting there like, okay, I suck. And that's not the point. You've got to figure out how to be able to feel this without shame.
Yeah, that's a
coming
great
alongside
thing to
of
add.
it, because that's the number one thing that I felt that I had to overcome, is that it's embarrassing. Like, I feel shame that I have to deal with these things, and that's wrong thinking. Like, no, there's no shame attached to this, man. We're all like this. We all need help. We're all broken in some sense that needs some healing. And so it's just like, get over that. Like, we're going to do this.
Yes.
And if you listen this long, it's because you're serious about it.
Yeah.
And so if you feel embarrassed or shame coming up attached with you realizing you need needs, get rid of that thought. Like, this is actually a really cool thing. It's not a shameful thing.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I would say to you guys that are listening for homework with this is, if you do feel a sense of shame, I think the first start is simply saying, I give myself permission to not have to have shame. There's a difference between acknowledgement and ownership for the pain that we've created, and then there's another thing about taking over responsibility through shame. And what that looks like is, some guys will be like, oh, I'm just a failure of a father, and it's a statement of identity. I can't believe I did this shit to my kids, my wife. And that's not actually taking healthy ownership. That doesn't bring resolve. That actually shuts you down.
Yep.
So that thing, Todd's going, hey, let go of that.
Yep.
And get honest with yourself and go, yeah, the truth is, I actually really maybe broke some people in my life, and I'm not evil and terrible for it. I did make a mess, and I can clean that mess up.
That's the best
and
thing.
I
we
can
do
get
something
healing,
about it.
and I can actually have honest conversations, because Todd, at this point, you're having conversations with your kids like, yep, you're right. I hurt you. I was wrong in what I did there. It's a simple acknowledgement, and that is profound for anyone on the other side of that. They get to get liberated and healed, not because dad comes in and goes, I'm a terrible father and I effed everything up. They don't need to feel your shame. They want to feel you resolved, that you're capable of dealing with your own shame and not spiraling into it. So they don't have to protect you from that. They just want to feel a dad who loves himself and is able to go, yeah, I created a mess. And whether you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a boyfriend, you're just a son who's made messes, or whatever it is, you don't have to come with shame. You can come with, here's the mess I made, and I want to get healing in it. It's
Absolutely.
pretty simple.
Yep.
So how can they contact you? If somebody wanted to get you to come out and do a big event, I know you weren't on here for this, but I actually think what you do is really profound, and I think that people need to see this. So
writinghighministries.org
Okay.
is a website. So
and they can go there, and there's a way to email you from Writing High Ministries.
You can get there from the website or any of the social medias attached to the website as well.
Awesome, man. Well, Todd, I love you, and I thank you for participating in my world and allowing me to participate in yours, dude.
Yeah, thanks for loving me and trusting me with your people.
You're welcome, man, and thanks for letting me blow your life up.
Yeah. Thanks for fixing me.
All right, this is Justin with The Connected Life, and peace out.